The afternoon sun beat down on downtown Los Angeles, illuminating the vibrant chaos of the city. Street vendors shouted their specials, tourists snapped pictures of the iconic buildings, and the hum of traffic filled the air. Among this whirlwind of activity sat a man named Mike, his back resting against the gritty sidewalk, the sun casting long shadows across his weary face. Mike had become a fixture on this corner, his clothes frayed and stained from countless days spent outside. Once a passionate musician, he had dreams that soared far beyond the concrete jungle. But life had a way of turning dreams into distant memories, and now he was reduced to asking for spare change. "Can you spare $1, sir?" he called out to a passerby, his voice rough from lack of use. The man glanced at Mike but quickly averted his gaze, walking past without a word. Mike felt a familiar pang of disappointment. He had learned to expect it, but each rejection felt like a small cut, chipping away at his already fragile spirit. As he sat there, lost in thought, a familiar figure caught his eye. Keanu Reeves, the beloved actor known for his roles in action-packed films and heartwarming dramas, was walking down the street. Clad in a simple black t-shirt and jeans, he radiated an unpretentious charm that drew people in. For a moment, Mike's heart raced as he watched the star move through the crowd, seemingly unaware of the impact he had on those around him. In that split second, Mike felt a spark of courage. What if he asked Keanu for help? What if this was the moment that changed everything? "Hey, can you spare $1?" Mike shouted, his voice tinged with hope. To his surprise, Keanu paused, turning to face him with a look of genuine curiosity. "What's your name?" Keanu asked, kneeling down to meet Mike's gaze. "Mike," he replied, taken aback by the warmth in the actor's voice. It felt surreal to be seen, to have someone like Keanu take the time to listen. "Nice to meet you, Mike," Keanu said, offering a friendly smile. "What's your story?" In that moment, Mike felt a rush of emotions. He wasn't just a nameless face on the street, he was being recognized as a human being with a past. "I used to play music. I was in a band, but things went south," he admitted, his voice trailing off as he fought back the memories of his lost dreams. Keanu nodded, his expression empathetic. "Music is powerful. What kind of music did you play?" "Rock," Mike replied, a flicker of pride surfacing amidst his sorrow. "We had some local success, but then I fell into addiction. Lost everything, my band, my family, my way." A heavy silence hung between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a shared moment of understanding, of two lives intersecting in an unexpected way. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. Keanu continued, a playful grin breaking the tension. "This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" Mike pondered the question, his heart racing. "Music, I guess. It used to be everything to me. But now, it just feels out of reach." Keanu looked thoughtful for a moment, as if weighing Mike's words. "It sounds like it's still in you. Maybe you just need a little help to find it again." Mike stared at him, the weight of his circumstances suddenly feeling lighter. Could this really be the turning point he had longed for? He felt a flicker of hope in his chest, a warmth spreading through him as he realized that perhaps he wasn't as invisible as he felt. In that bustling city, amidst the noise and the chaos, Mike had found an unexpected ally. Little did he know, this encounter would set off a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. As Keanu settled beside Mike on the pavement, the world around them faded into a blur. The chaos of the city, the distant honking of cars, and the chatter of pedestrians melted away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of connection. "Tell me more about your music," Keanu prompted, his eyes attentive and encouraging. Mike felt a rush of emotions, memories flooding back like a tide. "I started playing guitar when I was 12, Mike began, a smile creeping onto his face. "My dad taught me. He was a huge rock fan and introduced me to legends like Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. I fell in love with it, the way music could express what words couldn't. He paused, glancing down at his hands, worn and calloused from years of hardship. I formed a band in high school. We played gigs at local bars, wrote our own songs. For a while, it felt like we were on the brink of something big. Keanu leaned in, intrigued. What happened? Mike took a deep breath, the weight of the past pressing on his chest. We were getting noticed, but I started using drugs to cope with the pressure. At first, it was just to keep up with the lifestyle, partying, late nights, the whole rock and roll dream. But it spiraled out of control. I lost focus, and soon the band fell apart. Friends turned their backs on me. I lost my family too. They couldn't watch me destroy myself. The shame in his voice was palpable. I tried to get help, but every time I made progress, I fell back. I've been on the streets for years now, just trying to survive. Keanu nodded, his expression a mix of empathy and understanding. It takes courage to share that, Mike. It's clear you have a passion for music that hasn't disappeared. Maybe you just need a new start. Mike looked up, surprised by Keanu's words. A new start? It feels impossible. Who would want to help a washed-up musician like me? Everyone deserves a second chance, Keanu replied firmly. I know what it's like to face obstacles. I've had my share of struggles too. Sometimes, it just takes one person to believe in you to spark that change. Mike felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. Could it be true? Could he find his way back to music and the life he once dreamed of? What if I could help you get back on your feet? Keanu asked, his voice steady. We can find you some resources, maybe even get you connected with people who can help you reignite that passion for music. Mike stared at him, a mixture of disbelief and gratitude washing over him. You'd do that for me? Absolutely, Keanu said with a genuine smile. But it won't be easy. You'll have to commit to the process. Mike nodded slowly, his heart racing. I want to try. I really do. Just then, a group of teenagers passed by, laughing and taking selfies. One of them pointed at Keanu, whispering excitedly to their friends. Mike watched the interaction, realizing how much he missed being part of the world, how isolated he had become. Keanu noticed Mike's gaze. You used to be part of that energy, didn't you? The music, the connection with people? Yeah, Mike replied, feeling a pang of nostalgia. I miss it more than anything. Then let's get you back there, Keanu said, determination in his voice. First step, let's find you a place to stay. It's hard to think clearly when you're out here. Mike's eyes widened. A place? You really mean it? Of course, Keanu assured him. It's time for you to believe in yourself again. As they sat there, a sense of camaraderie began to form. Mike could hardly believe the turn his day had taken. Here he was, sitting on the pavement with one of Hollywood's biggest stars, discussing dreams and second chances. In that moment, Mike felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this encounter was not just a coincidence but the beginning of something transformative. The world around him might be chaotic, but for the first time in years, he felt the stirring of possibility. Let's make a plan, Keanu said, standing up and extending a hand to Mike. We'll take it one step at a time. As Mike grasped Keanu's hand, he felt a surge of energy. It was the first real connection he had felt in years, a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. This was the start of a journey he never expected, one that could lead him back to the music he had lost. The following days unfolded like a whirlwind. With Keanu's help, Mike was determined to reclaim his life. They started by finding a small room in a shared housing facility, a far cry from the pavement he had called home. The smell of fresh paint and the sounds of laughter from his new housemates brought an unexpected warmth to his heart. Welcome to your new home," Keanu said, a proud smile lighting up his face as they stood in front of the building. Mike felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was a new beginning, but he couldn't shake the nagging doubt that whispered he might not deserve it. As they settled in, Keanu introduced Mike to a local support group for individuals recovering from addiction. "It's a safe space," he assured him. "You'll meet people who understand what you're going through." Mike attended the meetings, and while he was hesitant at first, he found solace in the shared stories. Each person had faced their own demons, and slowly, he began to open up. But as the days turned into weeks, the weight of his past began to rear its head. One evening, after a particularly tough meeting, Mike found himself sitting alone in his room, staring at the guitar he had managed to retrieve from storage. The instrument felt foreign in his hands, and he hesitated to strum a single chord. What if he had lost his touch completely? What if no one wanted to hear what he had to say? Just then, Keanu knocked and walked in, sensing something was off. "Hey, Mike, how are you holding up?" he asked, taking a seat on the edge of the bed. "I'm trying," Mike replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "But some days are harder than others." Keanu nodded, understanding the struggle. "I know it's tough, but remember why you're here. You have a chance to turn things around." "I just don't know if I can do it," Mike confessed, feeling the weight of despair creeping back in. "What if I can't find my music again? What if I fail?" "Failure is part of the journey," Keanu said firmly. "You're not alone in this. You have me, and you have the support group. You just need to keep pushing forward." But just as the conversation began to lift Mike's spirits, doubt crept back in. That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the fear of what lay ahead. The city outside buzzed with life, but inside his room, the silence felt suffocating. The next day, Mike attended another support group session, but his heart wasn't in it. He felt disconnected from the conversations, lost in his thoughts about the future and his own insecurities. Afterward, he wandered to a nearby cafe, seeking solace in a cup of coffee. As he sat there, he overheard a couple at a nearby table discussing an upcoming music competition. "Did you hear? They're looking for local talent," one of them exclaimed. "It could be a big break for someone." Mike's heart raced. A competition? The thought both excited and terrified him. What if he entered and bombed? But the dream of performing again tugged at him, a siren call he could hardly ignore. Later that evening, he confided in Keanu. "I heard about a music competition. Part of me wants to try, but I'm scared. What if I can't do it?" Keanu leaned forward, his eyes intense. "You won't know unless you try. This is your chance to get back into the game. Take the leap, Mike." "I don't even know if I have any good songs left in me," Mike said, frustration creeping into his voice. "You have stories to tell, Mike. That's what music is about. It's about sharing your experiences and connecting with others. Just take it one step at a time," Keanu encouraged. As the days passed, the conflict within Mike grew. The idea of entering the competition hovered over him, a tantalizing yet daunting prospect. He would often sit in his room, guitar in hand, strumming aimlessly, but the notes felt hollow, devoid of the passion that once filled his music. The tension escalated one afternoon when Mike found himself alone in his room, the weight of his fears pressing down on him. In a moment of weakness, he reached for a small stash of old pills hidden away, a temptation he thought he had buried. He held them in his hand, the familiar craving rising like a tide. Just then, his phone buzzed with a text from Keanu. "Hey, just checking in. Don't forget our talk about the competition. I believe in you." Mike stared at the message, torn between the past and the potential of the future. With shaking hands, he tossed the pills aside, realizing that this was a crucial moment. He could either succumb to the darkness that had haunted him for so long or fight for the chance at redemption. Maybe I can do this, he whispered to himself, determination replacing doubt. The next day, Mike approached Keanu, his resolve stronger than ever. I want to enter the competition, he said, his voice steady. Keanu's eyes sparkled with excitement. That's the spirit. Let's start working on your set. As they began preparing, the tension shifted. Mike felt a renewed sense of purpose, but the shadows of his past still loomed. He would have to confront them head-on, but this time, he wouldn't be alone. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, one note at a time. The day of the music competition arrived, casting an air of anticipation over Mike. He had spent weeks practicing with Keanu, refining his songs, and rediscovering the passion that had once fueled his life. But as the event drew closer, the excitement was tinged with a gnawing anxiety. Would he be able to perform in front of an audience again? What if he forgot the lyrics or stumbled over the chords? Keanu arrived at Mike's apartment, a bundle of energy and encouragement. Today's the day. You're ready for this, he said, his enthusiasm infectious. Are you sure? Mike replied, nervously adjusting his guitar strap. What if I mess up? Listen, everyone in that audience is rooting for you. They want to see you succeed, Keanu reassured him. Just focus on sharing your story. The audience will feel your truth. Mike nodded, but the butterflies in his stomach continued to flutter. As they made their way to the venue, the streets buzzed with excitement. The sounds of laughter and music wafted through the air, but all Mike could hear was the pounding of his own heart. Upon arriving, they were greeted by a throng of hopeful contestants, each radiating a mix of nerves and excitement. The venue itself was a cozy bar with a small stage and dim lighting, creating an intimate atmosphere. Mike felt both intimidated and strangely comforted. As the competition began, he watched other performers take the stage, each pouring their heart into their songs. Some sang covers, others showcased original pieces. Each note seemed to resonate with the audience, and Mike's anxiety began to shift into a sense of belonging. This was his world, where music connected people. Finally, it was his turn. Keanu gave him an encouraging nod as Mike stepped onto the stage. The spotlight felt blinding, but as he looked out at the audience, he saw faces filled with anticipation, not judgment. He took a deep breath, clutching his guitar, and began to strum the opening chords of his first song, a heartfelt ballad about loss and redemption. As he sang, the words flowed from him, raw and real. He poured his soul into the melody, sharing the story of his struggles and his journey toward recovery. The music wrapped around him like a warm blanket, silencing the doubts that had plagued him for so long. With each verse, he felt the connection grow between him and the audience. He noticed a woman in the front row nodding along, her eyes glistening with understanding. A man in the back closed his eyes, lost in the emotion of the moment. This was what he had missed, the power of music to forge connections and heal wounds. As he reached the final chorus, Mike looked out at the sea of faces, feeling an overwhelming surge of hope. He had faced his fears, and in that moment, he realized that he was not defined by his past. He was more than the mistakes he had made, he was a storyteller, and this was his voice. When he finished, the bar erupted in applause. For a brief moment, the world felt perfect. As he stepped off the stage, adrenaline coursing through him, Keanu was there waiting with open arms. You did it, Mike. That was incredible, he exclaimed, pride shining in his eyes. I can't believe I actually performed, Mike said, his heart racing. It felt amazing. As the competition continued, Mike felt lighter than he had in years. Even if he didn't win, he had reclaimed a piece of himself that had long been buried. But as the evening wore on and the winners were announced, Mike's heart sank. He hadn't placed in the top 3. The feelings of disappointment threatened to overwhelm him, and he turned away from the stage, retreating into a quieter corner of the bar. Keanu followed, sensing his friend's distress. Hey, what's wrong? I thought this would be my chance to prove myself, Mike admitted, fighting back tears. But I didn't even win. Mike, Keanu said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. Winning isn't everything. You took a huge step today. You faced your fears and performed in front of a crowd. That's what matters. I just thought this would change everything, Mike said, his voice shaky. What if I'm not good enough? Listen, Keanu replied, his voice steady and comforting. This is just the beginning. You've shown that you have the talent and the heart. Keep playing, keep writing. It's all part of the journey. As they stood there, Mike felt the weight of his disappointment begin to lift. Keanu's words resonated deep within him. Maybe this wasn't the end, maybe it was simply a stepping stone. Suddenly, a woman approached them. Excuse me, she said, her face alight with excitement. You were amazing. I loved your performance. Thank you, Mike replied, surprised by the compliment. I'm a local music producer, she continued, her eyes sparkling. I'm always on the lookout for fresh talent. If you're interested, I'd love to chat about potential collaborations. Mike's heart raced. Was this really happening? He glanced at Keanu, who beamed back at him, a silent encouragement to seize the opportunity. Absolutely, Mike said, feeling a newfound confidence surge within him. This was the break he had been waiting for. As they exchanged contact information, Mike realized that while he hadn't won the competition, he had gained something far more valuable, a chance to share his music with the world and a glimmer of hope for the future. As the night wrapped up, Mike and Keanu left the bar together, the city alive with possibilities. This was not just a new beginning, it was a reaffirmation of the bond they had forged through shared struggles and triumphs. Mike was ready to embrace whatever came next, one chord at a time. The days following the competition were a whirlwind of excitement and uncertainty for Mike. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by the unexpected opportunity presented by the music producer. Keanu was by his side every step of the way, encouraging him to push through his lingering doubts and seize the moment. Let's set up a meeting, Keanu suggested one morning over coffee. You need to show her what you've got. Mike nodded, but anxiety gnawed at him. What if she doesn't like my music? What if I'm just a flash in the pan? You're not just a flash in the pan, Mike. You've worked hard for this. Believe in yourself, Keanu replied, his tone firm but supportive. As the day of the meeting approached, Mike spent countless hours in his room, writing new songs and refining his sound. He poured his heart into every note, hoping to convey the struggles he had faced and the hope he had found. But no matter how hard he tried, the fear of rejection loomed like a shadow over him. Finally, the day arrived. Mike stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his guitar strap and trying to steady his nerves. Keanu gave him a reassuring nod. You've got this. Just be yourself. As they walked to the studio, Mike's heart raced. The city buzzed around him, but all he could hear was the sound of his own breathing, quick and shallow. They arrived at a small, unassuming building, and Mike took a deep breath before stepping inside. The studio was warm and inviting, with guitars lining the walls and a cozy seating area. The producer, a woman named Lisa, greeted them with a bright smile. I'm so glad you could make it. I was really impressed by your performance. Thanks, Mike replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Let's hear what you've been working on, Lisa encouraged, gesturing for him to take a seat. Play whatever you feel comfortable with. As he settled in, Mike felt the weight of his past pressing down on him. The room felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He strummed the opening chords of an original song he had been working on, one that encapsulated his journey through addiction and recovery. With each note, he felt his heart open up, pouring out the emotions he had bottled for so long. The song spoke of pain, loss, and the yearning for redemption, and he could see Lisa's eyes light up with interest. When he finished, a heavy silence hung in the air. Mike's heart raced, the fear of judgment clawing at him. But then, Lisa broke into a wide smile. "That was beautiful, Mike. The emotion in your voice, it's raw and authentic. I can see the potential in your music." Relief washed over him, but the moment was fleeting. "You really think so?" he asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Absolutely," Lisa replied. "But you need to know, this industry is tough. You'll face rejection along the way, and it can be discouraging." Mike nodded, the truth of her words sinking in. He had already faced so much rejection, but this was different. This felt like a chance, a glimmer of hope. Over the next hour, they discussed his music, his vision, and the direction he wanted to take. Lisa was encouraging, offering constructive feedback and ideas for collaboration. For the first time in years, Mike felt like a true artist, not just a man lost on the streets. But just as the conversation was flowing, Lisa paused, her expression shifting to one of concern. "I have to be honest with you, Mike. I've worked with a lot of artists, and I can see the passion in your music, but I need to know that you're committed to this journey. Are you ready to put in the work?" Mike's heart sank. Was he truly ready for this? The thought of falling back into old habits, of letting his dreams slip away again, loomed large in his mind. I want this," Mike stammered, but doubt crept into his voice. "I'm just afraid of failing." Lisa leaned forward, her gaze intense. "Failure is part of growth. You can't let fear dictate your path. You have to believe in yourself, even when it gets tough." Her words struck a chord within him, and Mike felt a flicker of determination igniting again. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steadier this time. "I want to do this." With a smile, Lisa offered her hand. "Then let's make it happen. I'll help you navigate this world, but you have to promise to stay committed." As they sealed the deal, Mike felt a rush of emotions flood over him. This was the turning point he had been longing for, a chance to reclaim his life, his music, and himself. But as they left the studio, a familiar shadow crept back into his mind. What if he couldn't live up to the expectations? What if he stumbled and fell again? Keanu noticed the change in Mike's demeanor. "Hey, what's going on in that head of yours?" he asked, concern etched on his face. I can't shake the fear of failing," Mike admitted, the weight of his anxiety pressing down on him. "What if I let her down? What if I let you down?" "Listen, Mike," Keanu said, his tone serious. "You're not alone in this. You've come so far already, and you have a support system now. Don't let fear keep you from pursuing your dreams." As they walked through the city streets, Mike felt a mix of gratitude and fear swirling within him. He was on the brink of something transformative, but the road ahead was still uncertain. That night, as Mike lay in bed, he wrestled with his thoughts. The promise of a new beginning felt exhilarating, but it also came with the weight of responsibility. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, reminding himself of Keanu's words, "Believe in yourself." And for the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of hope, maybe this journey was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, Mike threw himself into his music. Lisa became a guiding force, helping him refine his sound and craft. They spent hours in the studio, experimenting with melodies, lyrics, and arrangements. Mike found himself rediscovering the joy of creating, the magic of weaving his experiences into songs that resonated with the human experience. Yet, as he worked tirelessly, the shadows of his past continued to loom. Old habits and familiar faces from his previous life began to surface, testing his resolve. One afternoon, after a long session in the studio, Mike decided to take a walk to clear his head. As he strolled through the familiar streets of his old neighborhood, he felt a mix of nostalgia and fear. He passed by a park where he had spent countless hours strumming his guitar, hoping for a breakthrough. Suddenly, he spotted a group of familiar faces. A couple of old friends from his days before everything spiraled out of control were gathered on a bench, laughing and passing around a small bag. The sight stirred a whirlwind of emotions in him, longing, regret, and temptation. "Mike! Is that you?" one of them called out, a grin spreading across his face. Mike's heart raced as he approached, a battle raging within him. He wanted to reconnect, to reminisce about the good times, but he also feared the pull of their lifestyle. "Hey, guys," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. "Come on, man. Join us," another friend urged, gesturing toward the bag. "We're just having a little fun." For a moment, Mike felt a pang of longing for those carefree days. But then he remembered the struggles he had faced, the pain of losing everything he held dear. "I can't," he said, shaking his head. "I'm working on something important right now." "Important?" one friend scoffed. "What's more important than this? You've changed, man. Lighten up." The word struck a chord. Mike felt a mix of anger and sadness. "I'm trying to change for the better. I can't go back to that life. I've fought too hard to get here." As he turned to leave, the friends called after him, their voices fading into the background. Mike's heart raced as he walked away, the weight of their disapproval heavy on his shoulders. But deep down, he knew he had made the right choice. When he returned to his apartment, Keanu noticed the troubled look on his face. "What's going on?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "I saw some old friends today," Mike confessed, running a hand through his hair. They wanted me to join them, to go back to that life. I felt so torn." Keanu nodded, understanding. "It's tough. Those old connections can be hard to shake, especially when you're feeling vulnerable. I don't want to slip back into those habits," Mike said, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I've worked too hard to get here." "And you have every reason to keep moving forward," Keanu replied, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Remember, you're not just fighting for yourself anymore. You have your music, and you're building something new." Mike took a deep breath, trying to absorb Keanu's words. "I know, but it's hard. Some days, I feel like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop." "Don't let that fear control you," Keanu said firmly. "Focus on what you're building. You have an opportunity to create something meaningful, to share your story with the world." As the days turned into weeks, Mike channeled his emotions into his music. He wrote about the struggles of resisting temptation, the pain of letting go of old friendships, and the exhilaration of pursuing a new path. Each song became a cathartic release, a testament to his resilience. One evening, after a particularly intense writing session, Mike received a call from Lisa. "I have exciting news," she exclaimed. "We've been selected to perform at a local music festival. It's a great opportunity to showcase your talent." The thrill of performing again ignited a fire within him. "Really? That's incredible," he responded, adrenaline surging through him. "Yes. But we need to prepare a set. I believe in you, Mike. This could be your breakthrough," Lisa encouraged. As the festival approached, Mike immersed himself in rehearsals, refining his set list and practicing with Keanu by his side. Each practice session brought a mix of excitement and nerves, but Keanu's unwavering support kept him grounded. On the day of the festival, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The venue was packed, filled with enthusiastic fans eager to discover new talent. Mike could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, but he also felt a twinge of doubt. What if he messed up? What if he forgot the lyrics? "Just breathe," Keanu said, sensing his anxiety. "You've prepared for this. Remember why you're doing it." As they waited backstage, Mike listened to the other performers, their energy fueling his own. He watched as the crowd cheered for them, feeling a mix of admiration and envy. Finally, it was his turn to take the stage. As he stepped into the spotlight, the world fell away, leaving only him and his music. He strummed the opening chords of his first song, pouring his heart into every note. The lyrics flowed effortlessly, resonating with the audience, and Mike felt a powerful connection with them. With each song, he shared his journey, the struggles, the triumphs, and the hope that had emerged from the darkness. The crowd responded, cheering him on, their energy lifting him higher. But just as he hit the peak of his set, a moment of vulnerability washed over him. He looked out at the sea of faces, and the fear that had haunted him crept back in. What if this was all a fluke? What if they were just being polite? In that moment, Mike paused. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the present. "This next song is about the struggle to stay on the right path," he said, his voice steadying. "It's for anyone who's ever felt lost but is fighting to find their way back." As he began to play, he poured every ounce of emotion into the music, and the audience leaned in, captivated. It was as if he was sharing a piece of his soul, and in that exchange, he felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. When he finished, the applause was deafening. For the first time, Mike felt free, not just from his past but from the weight of expectation. He had found his voice again, and it was beautiful. As he stepped off the stage, Keanu was there, his face beaming with pride. "You were incredible, Mike. That was the performance of a lifetime." "I can't believe I did it," Mike said, still riding the high of the moment. "Thank you for believing in me." "You did this all on your own," Keanu replied. "You fought for it, and now you're on your way to something great." As they celebrated with the other performers, Mike felt a shift within him. The doubts that had lingered in the back of his mind began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and determination. He was no longer just a man fighting against his past, he was an artist reclaiming his future. And as he stood there, surrounded by laughter and music, Mike realized that this was only the beginning. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the power of his story and the support of those who believed in him. This was his moment, and he was ready to embrace it fully. With the festival behind him, Mike felt a renewed sense of momentum. The thrill of performing, combined with the positive feedback from the audience and Lisa, filled him with a sense of purpose he had never known before. The rush of adrenaline lingered, driving him to write even more, to refine his craft. However, just as everything seemed to be falling into place, a storm brewed on the horizon. Mike received a text from Lisa that sent a wave of anxiety crashing over him. "Can we meet? I need to discuss something important." The message was short and vague, and his mind raced with possibilities. Had she heard something negative? Did she change her mind about him? As he waited for their meeting, unease settled in. Keanu noticed his agitation during their usual coffee catch-up. "What's bothering you?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "It's Lisa. She wants to talk about something important." "I can't help but think it's bad news," Mike admitted, staring into his cup as if it held the answers. "Don't jump to conclusions. She's been supportive of you. Remember, you've come a long way," Keanu said, his voice steady and reassuring. "I know, but what if she thinks I'm not ready or that I've peaked already?" The words spilled out, revealing Mike's deepest fears. "Then you'll tackle that when it comes. Focus on what you can control, your music and your passion. You've already proven yourself on that stage," Keanu reminded him. Their conversation lingered in Mike's mind as he approached the cafe where he was to meet Lisa. He stepped inside, his heart pounding in his chest. The familiar aroma of coffee was comforting, but it did little to ease his nerves. When Lisa arrived, she greeted him with a warm smile, but there was an unmistakable seriousness in her eyes. "Thanks for meeting me, Mike," she said, gesturing for him to sit. "Of course. What's going on?" he asked, bracing himself for whatever news she had. Lisa took a deep breath. "First of all, I want to say how proud I am of your progress. The festival was a huge success, and you've got a lot of potential. Relief washed over him momentarily, but then he sensed the shift in her tone. However, she continued, there's something I need to address. The music industry can be unpredictable, and there's a lot of competition. I've been receiving feedback from some producers about your music, and while most of it is positive, there are concerns about your ability to handle the pressures that come with success. Mike's heart sank. What do you mean? Some of them worry that your past struggles could resurface, especially if you face challenges or setbacks. They want to know if you have a solid support system in place to help you navigate the highs and lows, Lisa explained. The word struck Mike like a physical blow. The weight of his past, something he had fought so hard to escape, threatened to pull him back down. I understand, he stammered. But I'm committed to this. I've come too far to turn back now. I believe that, Mike. But you need to be aware of how this industry works. It's not just about talent, it's about resilience. I want to help you, but you need to show that you can handle what's coming your way, Lisa said firmly. As they continued to talk, Mike felt the walls closing in. Each word seemed to echo the fears he had buried. What if he wasn't strong enough? What if the old Mike returned, the one who had lost everything? When the meeting ended, he walked out feeling more vulnerable than ever. The excitement that had fueled him just hours earlier was overshadowed by the weight of uncertainty. Back at home, he plopped onto the couch, staring blankly at the wall. Keanu walked in, noticing the shift in Mike's demeanor immediately. Hey, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. It's Lisa. She's worried about my ability to handle the pressure of the industry, Mike replied, his voice shaky. What if she's right? What if I can't do this? Listen to me, Keanu said, kneeling beside him. You've made it this far because you've shown strength and determination. This is a tough industry, and yes, it can be overwhelming, but you've also proven you can rise above your challenges. Don't let fear dictate your worth. Mike nodded, but the anxiety gnawed at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the precipice of something monumental, yet the fear of falling back into his old ways haunted him. That night, he lay in bed, tossing and turning. Memories of his past flooded his mind, moments of despair, loneliness, and the feeling of being trapped. It was all too easy to imagine slipping back into that darkness. As the days passed, Mike struggled to find his footing. He attended rehearsals but felt increasingly detached, the fear of failure clouding his creativity. Every time he picked up his guitar, he was reminded of Lisa's words, and the once comforting melodies now felt like a reminder of his fragility. Keanu noticed the change and was determined to help. We need to get you back to where you were after the festival. Let's set up a few jam sessions with other musicians. You need to reconnect with your love for music. Reluctantly, Mike agreed. As they gathered a small group of musicians at a local community center, he felt the weight of expectations pressing down on him. The vibe was different this time, there was no audience, no stakes, just a chance to play and share. As the music started, Mike hesitated. But as he began to strum the chords, the familiar rush flooded back. The melodies danced in the air, and he felt the rhythm of the songs washing over him. Slowly, the tension began to fade, replaced by the joy of playing with others. During a break, he noticed a fellow musician named Sarah chatting with Keanu. They shared a laugh, and Mike felt a flicker of warmth inside. Maybe he wasn't alone in this journey after all. As they returned to playing, Mike decided to take a leap of faith. He shared his fears with the group, opening up about his past struggles and the pressure he felt. To his surprise, they responded with empathy and understanding, sharing their own stories of overcoming obstacles. In that moment, Mike realized he was not just an artist, he was part of a community, a support system that extended beyond his fears. The music they created together felt like a healing balm, soothing the anxiety that had plagued him. As the session wrapped up, Mike felt lighter, the shadows that had loomed over him beginning to dissipate. Thank you, everyone. "I needed this," he said, his heart full of gratitude. Keanu smiled at him, a knowing look in his eyes. "See? You're not alone, Mike. You have people who care about you and believe in you." That night, Mike lay in bed with a newfound sense of clarity. He wasn't just fighting against his past, he was building a future surrounded by supportive friends and a passion that had reignited within him. He resolved to face the challenges ahead, embracing the journey, one song at a time. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt the warmth of hope wrapping around him like a familiar embrace. The storm may have come, but he was ready to weather it and emerge stronger on the other side. The morning sun poured into Mike's apartment, illuminating the space with a warm glow. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. The jam session had reignited his passion, and he was ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead. As he brewed his morning coffee, he reflected on the journey he had taken. The highs and lows had shaped him, and now, he felt more equipped than ever to navigate the unpredictable waters of the music industry. His phone buzzed, breaking him from his thoughts. It was a message from Lisa. "Let's meet this week to discuss next steps. Excited to hear more of your new material." A spark of enthusiasm ignited in his chest. He spent the morning refining his songs, channeling his emotions into every lyric and melody. He wanted to show Lisa that he was ready, not just for the industry but for the challenges of life itself. When the day of their meeting arrived, Mike felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. He arrived at the cafe early, rehearsing his new songs in his mind, determined to present his best self. Lisa walked in with a bright smile, and they exchanged pleasantries before diving into the conversation. "First off, I'm thrilled with the direction your music is taking," Lisa said, taking a sip of her coffee. "I can hear the growth and the authenticity in your lyrics. It's exactly what the industry is looking for." Mike felt a wave of relief. "Thank you. I've been working really hard to channel everything I've experienced into my music." Lisa nodded appreciatively. "That's what makes your work so relatable. Let's talk about getting you some gigs. I've been in touch with a few venues that would love to feature you." As they discussed upcoming opportunities, Mike's heart soared. The thought of performing again, this time with a stronger foundation, filled him with excitement. He knew he could lean on his newfound support system and the lessons he had learned from his past. "Also, I want to set up some sessions with other artists," Lisa added. "Collaboration can open up new doors and expand your sound. What do you think?" "That sounds amazing," Mike replied, his mind racing with possibilities. "I've been wanting to work with other musicians. I think it could really elevate my music." As they continued to brainstorm, Mike felt the weight of uncertainty lift. He was ready to embrace this journey, to face whatever challenges came his way. The fear that had once gripped him transformed into excitement, propelling him forward. After their meeting, Mike couldn't wait to share the news with Keanu. They met at their favorite coffee shop, and Mike's eyes sparkled as he recounted everything Lisa had said. "I'm finally getting the chance to perform again and collaborate with other artists." Keanu grinned, his pride evident. "That's fantastic, Mike. I knew you could do it. You've worked so hard to get here." As they celebrated over coffee, Mike couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had forged a new version of himself, one that was resilient, passionate, and determined to make his mark. As weeks turned into months, Mike embraced every opportunity that came his way. He performed at various venues, each show building his confidence and audience. Collaborating with other musicians opened up new avenues for creativity, and Mike felt invigorated by the fresh perspectives and experiences. Through it all, he remained grounded by the lessons he had learned and the support of his friends, especially Keanu. They often spent evenings jamming together, the music serving as both an outlet and a reminder of their shared journey. One night, after a particularly exhilarating performance, Mike sat on a rooftop with Keanu, the city lights twinkling below. I can't believe how far we've come, Mike said, looking out at the view. Sometimes it feels surreal. It is surreal, Keanu replied, his tone contemplative. But it's also earned. You fought for this, Mike. You turned your struggles into something beautiful. As they talked, Mike's thoughts drifted back to the challenges he had faced. He had been through dark times, but those moments had shaped him into the person he was today. He realized that embracing his past had given him a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. Months later, Mike found himself standing backstage at a larger venue, preparing for a significant performance, a chance to showcase his music to an even bigger audience. As the lights dimmed and the crowd's cheers filled the air, he felt a rush of excitement and a hint of nerves. "Remember, you've got this," Keanu whispered as he adjusted Mike's guitar strap. "You're ready." Taking a deep breath, Mike stepped into the spotlight. The familiar rush surged through him as he strummed the first chords of his song. The crowd's energy enveloped him, and he let the music flow through him, pouring his heart into every note. As he performed, he glanced out at the audience, feeling their connection to his story. He sang about resilience, hope, and the beauty of starting anew. With each song, he felt a sense of liberation, a release from the shadows of his past. When the final chord rang out, the audience erupted in applause. Mike stood there, heart racing, overwhelmed by the support and love pouring from the crowd. In that moment, he realized he had found his place, not just as a performer, but as a voice for those who had faced their own struggles. Backstage, the adrenaline was still pumping through his veins. Keanu pulled him into a hug, his face beaming with pride. "You did it, man. That was incredible." "Thank you for always being there," Mike said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you." As the night wound down and the celebrations began, Mike felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had not only transformed his music but had also transformed him. He was no longer defined by his past, he was a testament to resilience and the power of pursuing one's dreams. And as he looked toward the future, he knew that whatever challenges awaited him, he had the strength to face them head-on. With his music as his guide and the support of his friends, he was ready for whatever came next, a new dawn filled with endless possibilities.